One like 1%. I'm going to say a whole bunch of stuff today. Oh, yeah, I got a little gray hair in there. I'm in the truck. It's a little loud. Okay, so just for those of you who are watching, I learned basically that God is in control of my life, and I'm going to try and be as candid with you guys as I can. There's so many things that I wanted to do, and I got to do some of them, and I really want to tell you guys the truth. All right, I want to tell you the truth for a little bit. I was married and I was happy, and then our daughter came, and things kind of fell apart slowly. And then I tried to make more money, so I ended up down in Texas. I just wanted to do better and be a family person. Take care of my family, make more money. That's what I wanted to do. So I went down to Texas in my car, and with nothing, just my car, and I worked out there. And I met a couple people who helped me out, get started, hauling sand, and it was tough. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in trucking, with the heat and the safety equipment, the PPE. Just being out there, day in, day out, it was tough. It was one of the toughest things I ever did. I did make a few friends, acquaintances, maybe frenemies. I'm not 100% sure, but sometimes I wish I never went. I wish I never went down there. I wish I never went, because it's tough out there. It's a place where, money is really the only reason you're there. And I felt like I was losing part of my soul when I was there. I did. And then, as you guys know, I obviously started to express my creative side when I was there. Started making videos again. I don't know. I don't know if that made my life better or worse. I thought I was speaking out about something that would be informative to people, and then I just ended up getting involved in a whole world of confusion and mess. A lot of people I didn't know, and money was involved, at the company, and the company that company was working with, people were interested in, and obviously invested in what the stock price was. It was what I thought was a good thing, and it turned out to set me down like a strange path in life. It really did. It set me down a really strange path. So all that time away, I didn't really get to see my daughter and my family, and that oil field like kind of became my home. Even though I didn't have a place to stay, I was just living out of the car. And but the money was coming in. I was making money, and I had enough, and I started spending a little bit too much. One of the older guys that I met down there, told me a lot about his career in the oil field and how he used to be a roughneck, and he had been in the industry for a long time. He told me, try to manage your money, watch out for snakes, things like that. And I started to travel, and I I guess I didn't really make too much effort to see my family much more after that. Me and my wife were, at the time, we were separated, and we were legally separated. And, I always had an interest in, like looking at the stars when I was a kid. And before I went to Texas, like, I used to like the Southwest. I used to go out to, like, the Indian reservations and go on hikes. And I started traveling to Dominican Republic, which is a very, very, like, lush island. It's plush. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. And, hey, let me read some comments. Well, it depends on if you feel if I need help. And what else do you say? Why you're, I don't know why you're stealing content. I don't know what that means. Well, maybe I do know what that means. If you guys want to get a reaction out of me, I've heard some people say that, people try to, like, take over your channel, or people come online and say that you're false, and there's whatever reason there is behind it, and I've accepted that, my identity was stolen, to some extent. I don't really know. And, I'll let God work it out. And I mean that as in terms of, it's going to be what it's going to be anyway. If you guys feel that I'm stealing content, go ahead and make a report. I think I started this channel in 2018 or 2019 with an ex-friend of mine, and we used to just talk about doing YouTube just to do it. And it was drive mix game then, because I was driving a truck, and I had some turntables. I was mixing records, and I used to play PlayStation 4, and I kind of fell away from that too. But anyway, back to Texas. Well, I started going to the Dominican Republic, real plush place. And when I originally got there, I went there because it was in 2020 and it was COVID, and I thought we were all going to die. I just wanted to get away. I thought we were all going to die. It was COVID. I didn't know. And first time, it was a lot of fun. Just seeing a different place, meeting different people, feeling like you were, welcome there. The people are real hospitable. They're very nice to you, especially if you're just tourists just passing through. Very nice people. Fast forward to the end, when I started moving out to the country, and I lived with a woman for a while, and then I ended up living on my own recently, as this year. I saw things that made me question why is like humanity the way it is, just things that like turn me off. There's things that turn you on about that place, and there's things that turn you off. And like down the stretch, I just saw a lot of things that turned me off, and compiled with mistakes that I made personally, health problems, like real health problems too. As you guys, I have eczema. It's getting better now that I'm back in the United States and I'm not in the sun. I had eye surgery, but it's a beautiful place. It really is. He said you'll donate $10 if you say 6-7, or you just tricked yourself because I just read 6-7. I don't know if you can donate. I don't think I have it activated on my page. So at first it was just a fun time, and I was traveling, vacationing, and I spent most of that time staying with a woman. But before that, I want to tell you something. This is one of the things that turned me off about that place. One of the girls that I met early on, like in my first trip down there, a young girl, a really young girl. I'm not gonna lie, she was young. And I was on vacation, and we went traveling. I met her family first. And I remember I had an older, like, MacBook. And I think we were staying in like Via Maya. This is like right before I had left to come back, and we were talking. And she told me this story about like how like someone in her family had like sexually abused her when she was a child. And I started to like write down some of the things that she was telling me, like I wanted to like tell her story. And then my laptop died. Like it just died. It literally died. I think it was either like a shock from the cable or whatever. So I started to write this book about like, what was going on down there, you know what I mean? And I went back down real quick before I started my job in Texas, and I met a girl, mid-20s, and we ended up, hanging out for a couple days. She cooked a little bit. We talked. And she ended up, staying in contact with me later on. And that's when I started to notice that, like, there were things about myself that I needed to, like, work out as a person, As I developed and moved further along in Texas and working and spending time down there, I started to realize that I wasn't really balanced out as a person, I wasn't really sure if I just wanted to be someone who was connected to nature and at peace with God, or if I wanted to like really try and like push to be wealthy. I didn't really know, and my relationship with her kind of exposed me to that. Wasn't really sure what it was. So with time, she ended up getting a place, and I sent down the money for her to get the place. And I spent quite a bit of time in that place with her. And back then, I was so focused on making those videos about the oil field and the trucks. And I was so interested in, just living in both worlds. Like I said again, I really just kind of gave up and forgot about my family. Even though I stayed in contact, I always, sent home money for child support. Not always on time, but I did always send home money. And I started to meet people there, a little bit higher up, and I didn't really know who was really writing on my YouTube page, like the comments and stuff. Seemed like people liked it, but I didn't really know. It just felt like sometimes like I was being puppeted, and sometimes it just felt like I was being used. And I just wanted to make videos and like get information out there. And I started to develop, some strong feelings for the girl that I was staying with in the Dominican Republic. She's married now, but I really started to struggle like with myself. Do I want to live overseas, stay in the United States? How much am I in love with driving a truck? My family. I just started to question a lot of stuff, which was a good thing. It was a good thing that happened to me because, at some point in life, you try to control everything. You get to that point where you're like, hey, okay, I'm making some money now. I'm going to try and be in control of things. I'm going to try and make moves, and you get a big ego, And that's where it all kind of started to fall apart, I think, in a relationship, you can never really determine what the other person is actually about or doing. Only your mind can like spiral along with that. I think what happened is that I got to be like really big-headed and I got an ego. And I think she was trying to show me a simpler life. And I also know there was cultural differences, and her family had a lot to say about our relationship because I'm not, from that country. And, I'm talking about it now because it's a long time ago now. And it doesn't, it's in the past now. But it had a significant impact on my life, like staying abroad like that, going back and forth. And there were some things that happened there that just, I slowly started to like recognize and wake up to, the way things are like in the real world, the way that people move, the activities that go on, the things that you don't notice in the United States. And I was just confused, and I had so much going on. I was just juggling a lot with work, being in a relationship there with her, old friends, just juggling a lot. And I started to lose myself, you know what I mean? Really did. And back then I used to drink more beer. When I would be down there, I would drink a lot of beer. And I kind of just lost myself. And I'm not sure if we pushed each other away. I'm not sure if she was upset that I was still technically married to my ex-wife because we were separated. I'm not sure if she was actually married to someone else because I didn't really speak much Spanish back then. And she would bring me around her family though, and I kind of got attached to her family. They were really cool. At least I thought at the time. For my limited knowledge. But that's where I first developed that connection, with being down there. I really developed that connection with like going down there and being in nature, being off resort, just being around different people. It's very different from the United States, very different. You don't really need much to survive there, But I guess I got in my mind that, we were going to keep, staying together. And I think what happened is that we slowly grew apart, even though we were still living in the same place. And I'd work on the videos, and she would take care of things. She was very nice, very kind, very loving person. You know what I mean? Gave me a lot of attention. Took care of the house. And make sure I had things because I didn't speak much Spanish. She was very nice. And I say that now because I try to speak about people in the manner in which you knew them, not what you think or may have heard about them after you stop dealing with that person. That's where, a lot of people mess up. When I was there and we were, spending time in the same place, she treated me very well. And when we would go out, we would have a fun time together. So, without telling you all the details, we ended up, breaking up. She said she wanted to go back to school. And, I guess I just wanted us to stay the way that we were. And I didn't really have a place other than that at the time. So, we broke up, and I remember, she shook my hand, which is kind of strange. She shook my hand. You know what I mean? And, we stayed in contact. Like, I didn't leave right away. And I went home briefly, and then I found out, like, one of my childhood friends died. And I went to see my ex-wife and daughter. And then I went back down. I guess because I was just confused or unsure. And that wasn't a good trip when I went back down. That wasn't a good trip. And at this point, I had already stopped working in Texas. But I still had in my mind, like, I wanted to go back. I was like, I still want to go back. I still want to go back to, Dominican Republic. But that trip down wasn't good. It wasn't good. I probably didn't make, like, the best decisions, and I was probably a little bit upset, So I went back to work, came back up. I started working for K&B in Sioux City. One of the hardest jobs I ever had. They work you really hard there. It's a lot of night runs. They work you real hard. Make good money, but they work you hard. So I left there. And I went to Crete. And Crete was good. I had some problems, though, with, like, where I was, like, where my terminal was. And, like, some of the people that I would interact with there. But the whole time I was out there working, I was making videos, I was still thinking about, like, Texas and the trucks. And what had happened, and um, and I still thought about, like, possibly living outside the United States. And I still thought about that girl that I was with. I used to think about her. I still think about her. What'd you say there? If spiders could fly, in some parts of the world, spiders do fly. Especially if you go out in the country, Dominican Republic, you'll see some strange bugs that'll make you question if spiders actually do fly. You might question that. So, I was at Crete for like a little bit over a year, and my health started to go a little bad. And I was going in for testing and stuff like that all the way through. I went to a dermatologist for my eczema, which is obviously a lot better now. I could show you some pictures when it was horrible. Obviously, STD testing. I take STD tests, and I decided to go back down in October of last year. And I went down, and I kind of rested for a little bit in Santiago. And then I ended up going down to Santo Domingo, and I was still trying to contact the girl that I was staying with. And eventually I found out on that trip she told me that she was married. So I moved out further west, out towards Barcelona. And that's when I started to see the things that, like, I had never seen before. Some of the guys out there, because I was riding my mountain bike trying to get in shape, and like some of the people I would meet at the supermarket who would give me like motorbike rides home would like warn me of people who do like black magic, witchcraft, and I was like, really? I'm from the United States, I don't know. And like people seem pretty serious about it. They seem like pretty adamant, And I was like, okay. I was just doing my tourist stuff, going around shooting videos, taking photos, got a bunch of them, you know what I mean? It's a beautiful island. I'm always an adventurer, but like people would always tell me like, hey man, like chill on like going out by yourself, like, like chill. And I later on found out that was because, there are gangs there, and drug activity, like everywhere. And when I eventually got into riding, the Pasola, the moped, the motorbike, I would just ride around like a tourist, my backpack, I had my tripod, my laptop in there, cameras, GoPro, and I didn't realize, like, at the time that, like, some people were looking at me like, hey, is that guy, like, running drugs for, like, the neighbor gang? Like, I didn't realize that. So this is where, like, things started to get, like, weird. I didn't realize that. Because I was just shooting around all over the island, and I didn't realize I was, like, kind of drawing attention to myself, by doing that. I'm just thinking, oh, I'm just a tourist, but, like, I'm not on resort. So, I met a woman there, and we started dating in the town that I was staying in for about 2 months. And I was working on, like, videos and exercising and, trying to get in shape. And then, unfortunately, I started to go blind in my eye because I was going to come back in early April like I normally do. I usually come back in the spring to drive. And I had the vitrectomy. And this is where everything just went bad. And I started to see, like, people in the neighborhood who were like, people were telling me like, yeah, man, there's like witch doctors and stuff down here and witchcraft. And I started to see a lot of things that you normally wouldn't see because I was staying there a lot longer. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good people down there. There really are good people. But, I was in a smaller neighborhood and I just started to see stuff that, you could describe as like ritualistic, and I'm not saying in a good or bad way, just, things that aren't normal here in the United States, right? So I didn't really know what was going on. I was confused. And I was still trying to contact the woman that I'd spoken to before. But I was, stable and comfortable in that place that I was at. Obviously worried about money, for sure. But I was stable, I was comfortable. And then I found out I had to have laser surgery on my other eye for the macular degeneration. And I was riding my bike around a lot, and just things just started to happen to me, like really weird. Like people would follow me, in like a good way or bad way. You know, I would always try to like be nice to the locals, especially like the kids. You know, the kids go to school there just like they do here. And I started to realize that, you know, the way that I was as a person was not like beneficial to anyone. It was really like selfish. And I slowly started to change and become somebody who started to see like some of the problems and the issues there. And I started to try and help people. And the issue with that is that I think I upset some of the status quo there, like the way that things normally are. And, you know, I started to try and help people and started to hang around people who are more the nefarious crowd. And I started to want to learn more about my surroundings. And that's when things like kind of started to go bad for me. I think I upset some people. I think people were confused by me being there. I think people thought like I was nosy. Some people tried to help me out. Some people really tried to like help me out, you know, and you know, explain to me like, you know, where I should go, where I should not go, what I should stay away from. And the whole thing just left me confused, really confused, very confused. Unsure of like my understanding of the world and culture and practices. Excuse me. Really of myself and like what my goals were and like my ideals were, you know. And the more I learned and the more I tried to immerse myself, the more confused I got. I got really confused. I'm not going to talk more about that right now. I'll have a time where I really go into depth with like some of the things that I saw there, but and out of respect for the people that are there too. You know what I mean? It is their town; they live there. But you know, I eventually came back, and it's taken me a while to kind of just get back to being the way that I was. But like, I can't quite explain it, and I might have to like write it down and you know, and formulate my thoughts in a way that, you know, maybe everyone can understand other than just making a live. But it's definitely left me feeling like 50-50 about like the world and people, and organizations and money, and, you know, question like why I even involved myself in that, and like, you know, what's really right. And it really just left me feeling like an independent person. Like I felt like the whole experience just like made me grow up into more of like a person and just accept the fact that like, you know, hey, look, you know, the world is this way and it's that way, and you know, you just have to accept at some point that like God's in control. You don't understand everything. You don't understand the world completely. You have to accept things for the way they are. And I kind of just stopped blaming everybody, and I started to realize that, you know, some things you can't control, some things you don't understand, and sometimes you just can't control what happens. And now I don't feel like this urge to like be on social media anymore, even though I do it. I don't really care anymore about it. If it works out, you know, great. I mean, I don't make any money from doing this. I usually just, you know, I realized I just wanted to help people. You know, I realized like I just want to help people. But in the process of helping people, you know, I didn't realize like some people are going to turn against you because you're trying to help them. Some people don't want your help. And then you're going to have people who are going to be like grateful. And then you're going to have people who are grateful and then they become leeches. And I didn't know that, you know, I didn't know that. I'm not saying that I'm high and mighty. I'm not. I really learned like I'm not high and mighty, you know. I'm just a man. I really am. But it just bothers me so much. So like I just decided like I'm going to talk about it, whether anybody's watching or not. You know what I mean? I'm just going to talk about it. It says, "Oh dog, what's up, Maine? Where you from? Are you from Memphis?" I used to like running through Memphis. I got a lot of good music out of Memphis. A lot of good music. Or you from Texas? There you go. But it just made me realize, like, in relationships and people, like it just kind of made me grow up. You know what I mean? Because that island in general is like you get to see the world for how it really is. Here in the United States, some of the activities that go on are kind of enshrouded, in systems and bureaucracy and stuff like, it's not like on display. Over there, it's like just on display. There's no filter. And it just kind of made me more aware of who I am as like a person and like the things you can't control, the systems that are bigger than you, how small you really are, how you can help and to what extent, the people who help you and the people that won't. And now that I've come back, I'm not even sure I even want to go outside the United States anymore. Because it's one thing to visit a place, it's another thing to stay. And I think because I enjoyed my time spent with the family of the woman that I used to stay with, the better times, but then I also got to see like the bad times, like the hardships of what it is down there. And it's even started to like seep into my life. Like I started to feel the effects of it too. And I still think about it. So, I mean, I'm back here now. I made my choices. I have to live with my choices like we all do. And I just focus on things one day at a time now. I don't know if I don't want to say I should or shouldn't have done anything. I just made a YouTube channel. I just put things up. I enjoyed riding the motorbike though. I did. It's very peaceful. I think I'll buy one here one day, if Lord allows me to. But I got a lot of things to catch up on right now. I really do. But I still think about it, and the reason I'm talking and it sounds like I'm rambling, and I am rambling, is because it's just kind of left me in a state of confusion. It really has, and I think the best way to deal with it would be to just spend some time alone and just meditate and really think about the gift of life that we have. And now that I have like a more of a global perspective of what the world really is and what it's not, and what it can be and what it couldn't be, and accepting it for like what it is. There's some things over there they're just difficult to see, and it's not my country, so I don't have a right to really say anything about it when I'm there. It's just that some of the stuff I wasn't really ready for. Some of the things that are normal and customary there that aren't customary here. But I got through it. Possibly barely. And I did get robbed down there, and that's possibly my fault for not understanding. But it's really left me in a point of like reflection, and I just kind of want to just reevaluate my life in general, and just not be so egotistical. Really understand the whole picture. I think that us Americans are spoiled. We got every damn thing in the world, you know what I mean, and we take it for granted. That's my opinion. And then you see like people go through like real hardship. Not to say that there aren't wealthy people there, but you see how like strong people are, like just with like their faith and just like the universe and God and like day to day. seeing 2 or 3 people live in a $20 a month apartment, with like a dirt floor, and be happy too. To be happy, yep, joyous, get along with their day, make it all work, Like here we have so much, and it's difficult, to understand if you're not from that. It's just difficult to understand, But the people there were mostly like good, mostly they were good. And I realized that I was kind of like, bad because I was like, disrupting things. And that's why I'm not really sure, if I should go back. The place where I stay and the family that I'm staying with, great people. They would always help me out, like I'm here today. I don't have any reason to think that anything bad was happening, but I did notice things in the neighborhood. But I just tried to just keep going because just kind of stay to myself, do my thing, because I don't live there. I'm not from there. But it definitely like changed me. It definitely did, and it still like plays around in my head to this day. Just seeing like the world like that, so simple, but also so like infuriating and frustrating. Seeing like how people are valued in terms of gender there too. There's definitely like way different cultural values in terms of gender there. Like in terms of like respect and hierarchy, it's, women don't have nearly as much pull as men do there, and especially younger women. I don't want to speak on it too much because I don't fully understand the culture of society, but there seems to be some interest and pressure to over-sexualize certain parts of the younger culture, and that's none of my business. That's what they do. That's what they do, or if that's what they do in that area. But it's way different, and somehow I just feel like it was all just intertwined. When you're there, that country is like heavily visited by many, many different countries, many, many different people. People that you probably even know that go there, co-workers, friends, you know what I mean, have probably been to that island once, and the tourism is obviously now declining because the economy is not that great, but I still think about it, and I'm going to talk about it more, but it just plagues my mind sometimes. And mostly I ended up, starting to cook for some of the people in the neighborhood, and I would ride my motorbike around, and I met some people in different towns, and I would try and help out, here and there, before I left, because I kind of really started to realize, like, how like arrogant and stupid, I can be sometimes as an American, not really understanding that, on a global scale, like we're all just people, and not a lot of people have access to opportunities, like we do in other parts of the world, like America. And I just kind of felt so stupid and ashamed, towards the end there. I really did. I kind of just felt like stupid and like not really knowledgeable of the world and like people. I just felt like dumb. And then more or less I eventually left and I came back here. And now I still have that same feeling here now. Now I feel like, before I had started doing all that, like, I just feel stupid and dumb. Like, why didn't I just focus, what I needed to do? If I didn't like my career, why didn't I try a different career? I just, just feel like I was someone who took a lot of things for granted, just everything for granted, and I didn't really focus on how fortunate, a lot of us are here in America. Even though, we have problems and we complain all the time, but like, we really are like fortunate here. We are. We're really fortunate, you know. Some people get subjected to things that, make you reflect on how complacent, you are in your own personal life, and, I'm just talking about it because it makes me feel better. Talking about it makes me feel better. I don't care about the views and the likes and the stats and stuff. I really don't care. I don't care. I really don't, Now I'm not even really sure I care about like materialism or things like that because, you see things over there that, you see such great people, so well put together, work so hard, you know what I mean? Build up a nice life for themselves. And it's like, from a material aspect, like here in the United States, like that's like, a month of work for you, and it might take someone a year there. And then I started to think about like how I do things, ass backwards. And I was like, why do I do this? And it's like, once you see it that way, it's like, why do I do things, this way? I can just do it the easier way. Or just, stay on task, stay on mission, because when you see like how well people move through like struggle and adversity, with a smile on their face every day, it's it's amazing, but it also makes you feel like incredibly stupid and dumb, like, why are you here? You could just go back to America. And I eventually did, but I'm gonna talk about it more in the future. There's just a lot like I want to say, but like I have to word it correctly because I really did like experience and see a lot there, and it subjected me to like a lot of emotions and things that are a little bit darker, and things that are actually of the light, and like brought me a lot of peace. But it definitely made me like an individual. It definitely made me see the world in a way that I wish I had saw 20 years ago. I wish I had saw the world the same way that I see it now 20 years ago. I wish I had. And I'll talk more about it in the future. For any of you that do watch this channel, I appreciate it. I'm not trying to like do this for growth or anything or get likes. I'm really not. Just it's just an outlet for me to talk about some of my life experiences, maybe to help you one day. But if you do get to go outside of the country one day, I'm not sure if it's for me anymore. I'm really not. But try to absorb it all. Wherever you might travel to, and really don't take like your own ideas with you. Just like take it for what it is, because something that you might say like, oh, I would never do that or never be interested in that, like you might actually like have your eyes open to something that like, oh, I never saw the world that way. Or maybe someone has something to teach you about like plant medicine, or healthier eating. You can actually learn a lot from a lot of people. And I started to become more of a student of it later on in the back end, and stop worrying so much about like being the American like over there, and it's just left me in like a real like reflective and contemplating state about how arrogant and stupid I am as a person, how I was like towards people, and like how we all need to continue to be open to learning new things, So I guess that's it. That's the message for the day. I didn't talk enough. I got to go to sleep. I appreciate anyone who watched and liked and wrote a comment. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later. All right? Have a good night.